Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Our patient today is another 86A with intermittent misfire on cylinder 6. Now the owner took the car to the mechanic. The mechanic replaced an O2 sensor and the MUF sensor and the correlating coil pack, plug, and wire. I am kinda suspicious regarding whether they replaced the wire, because it's a pain to replace that wire, and you can just test whether the wire is okay. You know, it's kind of a I wouldn't expect that they actually replaced the wire. But I can well believe that they replaced a coil and they replaced and the plug. Okay, they didn't touch the injector. Why wouldn't you also replace the injector if you're going that route? You know, because now after replacing O2, MUF, coil, and the plug, and the wire, okay, I'll give you that. Let's say you replace the wire. You haven't touched the injector. So how do you know it's not a faulty injector? But here's a here's the since blah blah blah. Yeah, so here's the main diagnosis, or what to do next, right? They still haven't replaced the injector or haven't tested the injector. Nothing with the injector, right? It could, sometimes it's just clogged injector. It happens, right? You can just pour some cleaner into your gas tank and it might resolve the problem. It happens. Rare, but it happens. So their next step is to address blown head gasket or burned valve. So, can a burned valve cause intermittent or permanent misfire? It will, the ECM will report misfire, but it is obvious when it's a compression issue, because if the head gasket is blown or the valve is burned, you're gonna have low compression on one of the cylinders, and that will report as a misfire for sure. But any mechanic or any skillful mechanic will recognize the difference in misfire when there's just plainly no injector signal, there's no fuel making it to the cylinder, and low compression. Because these engines are H-type engines, commonly referred to as boxer engines, because the pistons are opposing one another. So they're on the side of the engine, and they're just kind of moving in this direction. So if there's plainly no ignition from one of the cylinders, bless you, then the car is going to be very shaky, because you know it's on the opposing sides, right? It's going to be very shaky. If there is compression issue, there's still ignition in a way. The piston is still being pushed, but not with enough energy, because there's not enough the compression on the engine, the pressure is low. But it doesn't mean that it's, if you have tiny tiny leakage, tiny hole, or the air is getting in or getting out of the cylinder through the gasket or through the valve, it doesn't mean that inside the cylinder is going to be atmospheric pressure. There's still going to be some pressure in it, and it's going to feel different. And the way you can confirm that is if you take off the injector cover and disconnect the injector. It'll be noticeable difference. the car is going to start shaking a lot more. If you connect it back, it's still reporting misfire, it's still tiny shaky, the power is still low, the fuel economy is still bad, the certain features of the car still don't work, but you can see the noticeable difference in how the engine works, how the engine behaves, how it shakes. So this, you know, and I'm just kind of tired of, you know, crapping on other mechanics, because you know, the reason I know that is because I'm specialized in this particular fault. So I'm sure the mechanic that worked on this is very skillful in other things that I have no idea about, and, you know, would do a much better job on other faults on this and any other car than I would. But what worries me the most is the approach, right? This, especially if this is a certified mechanic, right? I'm not certified. I don't even know what it entails to get certification. And to be a mechanic here in Georgia, I need certification. Not only the certification to be a mechanic, but on top of that, the emissions certification. So there's plenty of requirements in Georgia. In Wyoming, on the other hand, there's nothing to have the repair shop or to do anything. You don't need certification. You do need a certification for HVAC, for you know, cooling and you know, all those machines. They're working on AC and coolers and stuff. I was actually thinking of getting one, and I did get a suggestion in the comments that there's a big need for those technicians nowadays, so perhaps consider doing that. And sure, I will consider that once I'm desperate enough. I'm nowhere near there just yet, but I will definitely consider that. And but my point is, the mechanic just plainly didn't go through the procedure that we should all go through if we face an issue like this. So everything that he said is technically could cause the misfire, right? Maybe not mass airflow or O2, because if your issue is in mass airflow or O2 sensor, you're just gonna have, it's not gonna result in permanent misfire. All right, because we're gonna need this scope to inspect the chip. Let's see if it works. Nope. There. Okay, that'll do. Now, back to me crapping on the other mechanic. Yeah, I really don't want to do that, you know, because we should be kind of supporting one another, encouraging one another, not criticizing unnecessarily one another, you know? But in this case, well, put yourself in the position of the owner of the ECM. The lady had to spend $1,200 so far on the mechanic trying to diagnose why this car misfires. And I'm sure she told him that it's intermittent. Like, let's see what she said here. I'm skeptical because the problem is intermittent and seems to be at its worst once the engine is hot or it's very hot outside. Personally, I've had the opposite experience. meaning that when it's cold, it would misfire, but when I put the heating on and I drive a few miles, or say half an hour drive, then it stops misfiring for a while, or it misfires a lot less. So in either case, it is noticeable that conditions, road conditions, the engine temperature and the temperature outside impacts the fault, right? So that's probably the first thing that the lady told the mechanic, and that should be a clue. That should have been a clue. So yeah, I kinda blame the mechanic, because now when do we become liable for our mistakes? You know what I mean? That $1,200, is the mechanic liable for that? Not because of the misdiagnosis, because oftentimes there is a certain procedure you have to perform to even get to the stage where you can diagnose something or draw a conclusion from something, right? If you bring the car for shimming, right, to get the car into specs, until you disassemble everything and make the actual measurement between the rocker and the push rod, you don't know whether the engine is within specs or not. Then once you did that, then you know how off it is, what kind of shims you need to order, how many of them, and you have to either replace them or replace them, right? To get the car, to get the engine within specs. It could be that you open the engine, and in case of this particular engine, you have two heads on the sides of the engine to gain access to them, and that's the same for replacing head gasket. To gain access to that, you need to remove the engine from the bay, so you need to disconnect electrically everything. You need to disconnect it from the tranny. You obviously need to demount the engine, then hang it, and literally remove the engine from the bay. Then you gain access to those components. Then you have to remove both heads to gain access to the head gasket. You don't have to remove the head to do the shimming, but still you have to remove the engine, right? So you did all that. You open the what we call keyboard to gain access to rockers, so you can measure the clearance, right? And you measure the clearance, and everything's within the specs, right? You don't have to shim anything. Well, so that means that wasn't your problem, but there's no way for the mechanic to know that until they actually perform the removal and the measurements, right? So this is fine, and you still have to pay for a pretty lengthy procedure, of course. But if you bring the car with misfire, be it permanent or intermittent, the first three things you check is the coil, the injector, oh yeah, this wasn't sitting right. That's definitely our issue here. So the coils, the injectors, and the spark plug, right? Those three things are necessary for the combustion. Now, in addition, there needs to be a proper compression in the cylinder. So indeed, if one of the valves is either intake or exhaust valve is damaged, it's not closing properly, you're not gonna have compression. If the head gasket is faulty, You're not gonna have good compression. There might be misfires. But if your head gasket is blown, almost always, in very rare cases it might not be the case, but always you're gonna have white smoke coming out of your tailpipe. Why? Because there's gonna be water going into the cylinder, and that water is gonna be burning off, evaporating, and you're gonna have white smoke in the back. That's head gasket. Well, every mechanic is gonna tell you that. In addition, if depending on the fault of the head gasket, you're gonna have sludge for oil. So if you do oil change and it looks like cocoa, that's definitely head gasket. You have coolant in your oil. These are basics, guys. These are absolute basics, and I'm not even a mechanic, right? $1,200. For $1,200, you can replace this ECM with a brand new one from the manufacturer. So, would you go back to the mechanic and say that you cost me $1,200 because you're incompetent? Would you do that? I don't know. I don't think I would. I mean, I don't know. It just kills me that $1,200, was basically lost for no reason. Now the reason I'm so harsh on the guy is because nowhere did he mention the injector. How do you not eliminate injector? And instead of eliminating injector, you jump to conclusion that it's going to be a head gasket or a valve. You don't do that. You just plainly don't do that, because now you're kind of playing with someone else's money, or someone has to pay money for your incompetence. That's not cool. that's just plainly not cool. And then, you basically, the reason I'm emotional about this particular repair is because you kind of ruined the business for all of us. Because I have plenty of friends, mechanics, right? I'm within this kind of group where we just kind of share our repairs, and I learned a lot of stuff from that group. And there is a type of customer that is referred to as blow and go, meaning they will come to your shop, they want to know how much you're gonna charge for a particular repair, and they get upset that it's so expensive, so they're just gonna ruin your day and just kind of yell at you basically for 10 minutes and then go, not even give you a chance to even diagnose anything. Why do we have those customers? Well, because of repairs like these. Right? You go to the mechanic with a fault and you expect them to fix your car, basically, right? Suppose that the situation was different. The lady brought the car and they did all that, meaning they replaced the plug, they replaced the cables, fine. And they replaced the plug, or the coil, they replaced the injector, no difference. Then maybe they finally checked whether there's a control signal on the injector and found, oh, there is no control signal on the injector. So then they reach into the ECM and perhaps replace the ECM or send it to my shop for repair. and they returned the car after a week, charging the lady $1,200. That would be fine, right? Your process was not efficient, fine, but you found the fault eventually, right? And the customer needs to pay for that entire diagnosis process, which technically you could have shortened. You didn't have to replace this and that, and all you had to do is connect and confirm whether there's control signal on the injector. But hindsight is 2020. It's fair game if the customer needs to pay for the diagnosis process, right? We don't know what's wrong. We have to do this and this and that, and fine. Even if they because to be honest, if you want to confirm a blown valve or blown head gasket, all you have to do is pump gas into the cylinder and check if the pressure is going down or not. That's very basic diagnosis process. So say they also did that, suspecting that it was head gasket or a valve, right? It's all fine. It's all fair game as long as you repaired the vehicle for the customer. And yeah, we can argue whether you were efficient or not. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is that the car is now working. You fixed it. This is the price. That's fair game. But in this case, they charged $1,200 and they did not repair the car. Instead, they offered more diagnostic procedures to further pinpoint what is wrong. Now, wouldn't you agree that this is incompetence? Wouldn't you call that incompetence? I would. Again, I'm not gonna complain about inefficiency, right? There are talented mechanics, less talented mechanics, and perhaps completely untalented mechanics, right? But all of them should be able to get the job done. It's just a difference in price and in time. And to be fair, I actually wouldn't even complain if the mechanic spent 10 minutes on this fault and charged $1,200. I wouldn't complain because there's an old saying, or there's an old joke. Let me tell you an old Polish joke. The guy comes to the mechanic and and describes the issues that there's misfire. I can only turn right. I can't turn left. Lights don't work. Radio doesn't work. The power windows are not working. All kinds of the brakes don't work and stuff, right? Fix it, right? And the guy takes the light bulb from the turn signal, removes it, puts a new light bulb in the turn signals, and everything works. And he says $2,000 for that. And the guy complains, $2,000 for replacing the light bulb? No. Replacing the light bulb, that's $5. The rest is for me to know, or for my knowledge that I knew what to do and how to fix that. Because all the other shops would charge you $2,000 and keep your car for 2 weeks until they found this fault. I, on the other hand, know the fault, so that's why you're paying $2,000 for this, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. If someone knows this fault and charges a lot of money, because they're gonna still save you a lot of time, and they're confident in their abilities, right? They know that this is gonna work and your car is gonna work great. That's fair game. But it's not fair game if you charge $1,200 and the car is still misfiring and you didn't get even close to the issue, not even a mile from the issue. You were completely off. And the primary reason for my disappointment is that they never touched the injector. Because if they touched the injector, if they connected the LED to the injector cable, they would see that there's no signal. It's not flashing. So obviously it doesn't get the fuel. Which they should probably have seen once they removed the spark plug. If there's no injection, there's still some oil in the cylinder. There's going to be always a little bit of oil in the cylinder. And the seal is supposed to remove all the oil in one of the cycles when the piston goes down, right? It scrapes the oil, so it should scrape the entire oil. But obviously there's going to be a little bit of residue depending on the condition. And you know that by seeing how much of the oil the car burns, whether you have black smoke coming from the tailpipe. If you do have black smoke coming from the tailpipe, it's time to rebuild the engine, right? It's not good when you have black smoke coming from the tailpipe. But if they removed, or after removal of the spark plug is going to be dirty, completely dirty, because there's going to be a little oil residue. The spark plug still works, so there's going to be an ignition in the cylinder. There's still going to be compression. There's going to be oxygen, so it's going to be burnt, and it's going to be immediately obvious that there's no fuel, there's no gasoline coming into the cylinder. It should be immediately obvious to any mechanic, really, because this is like the most basic thing, right? There are certain levels of mechanics, right? And depending on that level, you can do particular repairs. So, as I said, shimming the engine, that requires the highest certification level, right? It requires a fair bit of knowledge. It requires specifications that you get for particular cars. And on top of that, you're still going to have to most likely build your own tools to help you actually calculate everything, calculate the shim sizes on every valve. And sometimes there's 5, sometimes there's even more than that. I think about 5, maybe 5 valves per bank, meaning 5 exhaust valves and 5 intake valves. So that's 10 per bank times 6. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work just to keep yourself organized enough so you can actually perform this, right, and not mess up. But this repair is, like finding a misfire, is very basic. I think that's the lowest certification level that you need. Maybe not the lowest, but it's somewhere around. I would think even replacing brake pads and rotors is more responsibility than this, because you can, if you mess up brake job, then you're potentially risking someone's life, not only the owner of the car, but pedestrians and other motorists on the road. But this one, very low risk, very low complexity. Anyone with a repair shop should be able to to properly at least diagnose it. Maybe your diagnosis is that there is no compression. Again, you can confirm that with compressed air. But say you don't have the ability to confirm that, but you confirm that it's none of the typical issues like injector or spark plug or coil. And then we complain about blow and go people that come to our shops. Well, that's why they come to our shops. They blow and go because they have been burned by other incompetent mechanics in the past. So now they treat every mechanic like they either don't know what they're doing, or they're overcharging, or they're giving you the repairs that you don't need, all kinds of stuff like that. We kind of ruined that for ourselves. I'm sure you have your own stories of taking car to the mechanic and just leaving your 2 paychecks just to get it done, and it's few weeks that it took, like all kinds of stuff like that. I'm sure you have stories like that. Well, let's not get too depressed. This is the repair for this particular issue. As you can see, I no longer use the Captain tape. I just use the aluminum foil over here. Captain tape was not protecting the plastic part properly over here, and it was getting slightly melted on the edge over here. It's not like it's a big issue. It's not like it's gonna hurt anything, but I just didn't want the ECMs coming from my shop with melting of the harness, because that is something that I would notice if it came from another shop, and I would be criticizing that. Yes, like, oh, they didn't protect it enough. I wouldn't be, like completely destroying them for that, because it's not an issue per se. Meaning it's not gonna hurt anything, but it's not supposed to happen anyways. So if it does happen, there's something wrong with your procedure, and there was indeed something wrong with my procedure, mainly because for the purpose of better adhesion and easier alignment of the chip, I increased the nozzle. I used slightly larger nozzle on my header station, so that allows me to better align the chip, which is great. But the downside of that is that the Captain tape is not capable to resist this much heat, and it results in slight melting of the harness, and not even of the harness, of the corner of the harness, meaning you can kind of tell that it was worked on with header. Okay. Now, actually, this is not the subject that I wanted to talk about today. My subject for today was the recommendation engine on YouTube, commonly referred to as algorithm. The YouTube algorithm. That's what it is commonly referred to. And the reason I want to talk about that is maybe if you're not a software engineer or software developer, or you've never developed software, then that probably doesn't bother you. It does bother me when people call it algorithm, because it's slightly incorrect. For all intents and purposes, it is, it's good enough. The name is good enough. But algorithm is this small piece of the code, and all our programs consists of algorithms, data structures, and that's pretty much it. In gross simplification, it's basically algorithms and data structures working together to achieve functionality. These are programs. Now, algorithms and data structures don't have to make programs, they can make modules, and those modules are then configured or used by larger applications. So the particular modules are maintained separately and replaced as needed, right? So algorithm could be explained as basically, back in the day in Poland, the value added tax, it was 22%. When I was leaving, it was 23%. I'm sure it's around 30% now. I'm kidding. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's 23% still. But how do you add when you write a invoice manually? You use a calculator. So you take the net price, right? You hit plus 22 and the percent button on the calculator. That shows you the tax. Then you hit plus equals, and you have your gross price, right? And the requirement in Poland is that you basically write every line. It's in its own line. It's calculated separately, and then you add up all the columns. So it's not the same as adding up all the net prices and then adding tax to the net price and coming up with the gross total. Right? It must be calculated per line, and then the columns are added. Why that? I have no idea. That's the rule. I never questioned it. I just had to follow it as a software engineer, right? That's how you calculate it. So that's how I have to calculate it. So that is the algorithm. Now, if you wanna reduce the tax, you wanna work backwards from it, then you do minus 18.03%, and that works backwards, right? That's the algorithm, right? You just reduce it by 18.2%, 18.02%, which is the reverse of adding 22%. That's the algorithm, nothing more. And so programs, modules, whatever software is built from those tiny algorithms put together along with the data structures to operate on the data, and that's the program. Now that's why calling it YouTube algorithm is kind of, it's slightly incorrect, right? So what the YouTube algorithm actually is the recommendation engine. So what is recommendation engine? Because a lot of people have a lot of ideas how YouTube algorithm / recommendation engine works, right? And they know that from experience, right? So say you publish your videos in the morning. Archie, could you turn it down a little bit? Thank you. Bro. So say you publish videos in the morning and they watch better. You publish videos at night and they don't watch as great, right? You don't get that much views. So your natural reaction is that, publishing videos in the morning is better than publishing them at night. And be that as it may, you can't really be sure, because the only way to be sure is that's how you research anything, that's how you measure anything and draw conclusions. You just you remove all the variables except one, right? And if that changes everything, then that variable is responsible for that behavior, right? In the world of YouTube, you're not capable of doing that, because you publish two different videos, one in the morning and one in the evening, on 2 different days, maybe completely different videos, or maybe similar format, but different videos nevertheless, and on different times, on different days, right? Now, the only way to be sure in a scientific sense would be to publish this video in the morning, then go back in time to the same day, publish the same video, but in the evening. That, in the scientific sense, would be confirmation that the time of day has an impact, and you see what kind of impact the time of day has, because you have only one variable that has changed, the time of release. It's the same day, same video, same audience, everything the same, only the time is different. But in reality, you have plenty of variables, and so you're never sure which particular one is responsible. So you just gonna have to, make some educated guesses throughout the process, and you have to work with plenty of samples to actually draw any conclusions. One sample gives you nothing, because you don't know if those other variables didn't play a role. But my point is that a lot of people have a lot of ideas regarding how recommendation engine on YouTube works, aka YouTube algorithm, and they're all right. Everything they say is correct. They're all right. Doesn't mean that it's useful to you. Doesn't mean that it's actually useful for anything. So let's do a little thought experiment, right? Pretend that you are a software engineer and you have to design a recommendation engine that will recommend videos, right? So now we start from in every engineering problem, we start from, or endeavor, we start from the definition of the problem, right? So what is the problem? We want the user to be recommended videos that potentially user will be interested in. And the goal is to keep the user watching YouTube. That's simple as that, right? We want the user to just keep watching. So we want to recommend stuff that the user will be interested in. And that's it. That is the definition of the problem. So now imagine, what do you need to recommend something, anything, to anyone? First, well, you need to know their preferences, right? You need to know their needs, right? If someone comes to you and says, could you recommend a car for me? What's your first question? Like, maybe, how far do you drive? How often do you drive? Meaning you want to eliminate, like, would the electric be better for you, or gasoline, or diesel, or hybrid? Would the truck work for you better? Like, do you have to carry stuff often? Do you, what kind of roads do you travel on? Maybe you're in the middle of nowhere and you travel through dirt roads and stuff. So I'm not gonna recommend some tiny sports car with tiny, low to the ground. You need something high off the ground. Maybe something with big wheels. Or vice versa, maybe you live in the area where you have tiny streets, tiny garages, and you need something 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 small, right? But these would be the questions that that you would need to ask to give a recommendation, right? So first requirement of our recommendation engine is to get to know the user. Then based off the knowledge that we have of the user preferences, we can recommend videos, right? So first, user's history, right? There are several ways to write recommendation engine, and the most effective way of writing recommendation engines is the use of neural networks. You can write recommendation network fairly easily. You can download Visual Studio, Microsoft Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code, that's a different thing. And within Microsoft Visual Studio, you can create new machine learning project, and you have few choices. One of them is recommendation network. One of them will be a classification network, right? And that's the easiest one, where you just have to supply, you basically create two criteria or more for basically putting the picture in the bucket. So we define two, maybe, well, let's say two buckets. Last network that I built that way was basically to identify, to classify the image of a person and define whether the person is wearing a badge, right? So what I did, I took 20 pictures of people in different poses and stuff without the badge, and 20 pictures of different people with the badge. And I told the network that these pictures are of people that are wearing a badge, the other 20 are people are not wearing a badge. And the accuracy of the network was really well. I was very happy with the accuracy based on that. Like even the pictures where it was slightly cut, you can see like a little piece of the badge, but you have the straps around the neck, and that was classified as that person is wearing a badge. And now, would the network also if the badge is not visible but the straps are visible, would the network still classify that as a person wearing a badge? Most likely, and that would probably have to be another network that would just take that picture and further analyze it, and that is called a convolution layers, or convoluted neural networks. So multiple primitive networks are working together, and first network is just classifying image to go left or right, then the next one is maybe not classifying but actually doing object detection on the picture to actually identify the badge, and that kind of stuff, right? Archie, please, it's way too loud. So the recommendation engines work just like that. The network receives the information regarding what do you watch, and after you watched one video, what other video are you watching next? And based on that, the network just learns to recommend stuff to you. Now, is it always going to be a good recommendation? Definitely not. In some cases, we do want to, from time to time, recommend something different to you. But that is mainly based on other people. Like basically, you probably have had this recommendation where it says other people that watch this channel also watch that channel, right? That's not the decision or recommendation made by the neural network. That's just plain, plain simple algorithm, right? If a lot of people watch the same channels, then we recommend it to the rest of the community, right? So if I watch Black Horse Repairs and a lot of other people that watch Black Horse Repairs also watch Northwest Repair, then I'm gonna be recommended that, hey, you watch this channel, and a lot of people that watch this channel also watch the other channel. Very simple, and that is maybe, let's not call it algorithm, but that is close to the algorithm. We basically, you can define it as a single function or a method that accepts two arguments, the channel that you watch and the rest of the channels that the community watches. And then if you are subscribed to that channel, then don't recommend it because you already know, right? Maybe recommend the video from that channel, but don't recommend that you could also be interested in that channel because you already subscribed to it. If you're not subscribed, then recommend this channel based on the other people watching that channel. That's a simple decision tree, right? That's the algorithm. But the recommendation itself, like what are you gonna watch next, that is handled by the neural network because it's easier that way. It's very hard to write recommendation algorithms or recommendation engines. And personally, I have this the service that I wrote a long time ago for the people that like crossword puzzles and that kind of stuff. My idea was that after you solve the puzzle, we're gonna recommend some other puzzles like that, right? I never made it work. I tried, but I never made it work to the point where I would be happy with the results. I was not happy with the results because my approach was simple, algorithmic approach, right? I just want to define it as, give me the list of puzzles that you solved. Then let's pull the list of puzzles that you never opened, you never seen, but they are within the same criteria as the puzzle you just solved or the puzzles that you usually work on. But if you use simple criteria like that, and I've used like you seem to like big puzzles, right? So this puzzle is also big, but it's in completely different format than you usually solve, and the subject of the puzzle is completely not up your alley, and basically the recommendation was bad recommendation, plain and simple. It was a bad recommendation from my side, and that was pretty much the the problem I could not solve. And that was years ago. That was before my abilities to even tackle the problem of neural networks. So I didn't even know that would be the option, right? The machine learning was not as popular, and it was definitely not called AI back then. But the neural network solutions were available for decades now. I mean, even or 80s, I think no, actually it was theorized even before then, and the whole history goes way back. I remember reading this book about artificial intelligence back in I was maybe 90s. I was a young kid, and the history went all the way to 1800s regarding the intelligent machines and that kind of stuff. So that is the problem of recommendation engine. So as I said, everybody who tells you how the recommendation engine works is correct. They are all correct. None of them are wrong, because the recommendation engine works different for everybody. Completely different for everybody. And how does it work exactly? We don't actually know. Not even people who build it know exactly how it works, because that's the nature of their neural network. This is kind of a, throwing everything against the wall and see what sticks. That's the approach of the neural network. And at the end of the day, it's not like neural network can give you the reasons, this is why I picked this video for you. No, it's just, that's how the weights and biases in the neural network combined with this input, and that's the output. You like it? You don't? Then fine. Fine, you don't like it. It's fine. We allow 80% accuracy, and we still call it successful. If you're 80 and over % accurate, it's good network. 20% of times, it's just going to be plainly wrong. But it's still, overall, is going to be better than writing algorithms, writing recommendation algorithms. So I guess the bottom line is that this is not YouTube algorithm, this is YouTube neural network that recommends your videos or doesn't recommend your videos. On top of that, there's obviously a decision tree, and these are algorithms, and say the algorithm is written that if your video has profanity in it in the first 5 minutes, then it's the probability of that video being recommended or it's flagged somehow, or basically there's a difference. That's the algorithm. Okay, that's a plain definition of how it works, is that you can't have profanities in the first 5 minutes of the video. But the rest, when you go to YouTube Home and YouTube decides to recommend this video over the other video, that is neural network making decisions. And no one knows how exactly those decisions are made. That's why everybody is correct, because that's your impression. So again, if your videos get better views when you publish in the morning as opposed to publishing in the evening, that's true. But it doesn't mean that it's going to work for me. For that reason, I get a lot of inquiries from YouTube experts. At least that's what they call themselves. And they assure me that if they give me some pointers and stuff, my videos will be watched better. Will have more views, right? And in many cases, they just use those plugins that you can install in Chrome, and it just tells you the your title is too long, or you don't have enough keywords, or your thumbnail is not HD enough. And there's a limitation to 1 megabyte, so if you want to actually do the full HD, because I have recommended size, which is smaller, it's not full HD. That's what YouTube recommends, that as a size of the thumbnail. But they tell me that it should be HD. But to make it HD, I have to compress the crap out of it to fit it in 1 megabyte, because it can't exceed 1 megabyte. So wouldn't that be detrimental to my thumbnail, to compress the crap out of it? Wouldn't smaller thumbnail in size be more desired than the bigger thumbnail? I don't know. They seem to think they know, but again, going back to the how it works, just because it works for you doesn't mean it's gonna work for me. So, also, I don't believe that, I refuse to believe that all I have to do is just change the title and the video will suddenly go viral. I don't believe that, because it would make no sense, no logical sense. And I believe that people who recommend me that stuff are not actual experts, and they have no idea how it actually works. That is my suspicion, though. I'm not saying that is definitely the case. Mainly because, why would my video suddenly go viral? Like, why would a million people suddenly want to watch the IC608 resoldering because I changed the thumbnail and the title? And especially in some of them, some of those recommendations really don't make sense. Like my recommendation was that my title is too long. Now you do understand what business I'm in, right? I know you compare, my titles to, or where do you get your data? That's important. You get your data from, say, Penguin Zero, right? His titles, I don't watch the channel because the thumbnail means nothing. It's just a guy that hasn't been to a hairdresser in a long time. And the title is literally 2 or 3 words that means nothing to me. Like title as I can't believe it, or what is that, or So, and he gets millions of views on each upload. But that's not, people don't watch him because his title is short. That's not why they watch them. They watch them because he's Penguin Zero, not because the title is short. So now you get your data from the channel like that, and conclude that I should have shorter titles. I think that's wrong. I think that's plainly wrong. First of all, my audience is completely different. People are, have different interests. I think long title works better than the short title. And I know that because I like that. I want to know, actually, one thing that I would recommend is don't put the same text in the description of the video and on your thumbnail. The videos that I like the most, or the videos that I click on, are, you have some teaser in the thumbnail, because that's usually the first thing you actually see and you actually read. And the title of the video complements the thumbnail. So I read the thumbnail, then I get more information from the title of the video. I think that is great, and as I said, I like that, right? I usually don't click on the videos that the title means nothing. So no, I don't watch Penguin Zero, but his content is recommended to me. And it's not recommended to me because I watch YouTube drama or commentary channels. It's recommended because a lot of other people like that video. That's why it's recommended. So my whole spiel over here is just about you can't always draw a correct conclusion from the data you get. And if you're very narrow-minded about it, meaning the Penguin Zero's titles are short, so everybody should have short titles, and that will get you 5 million or 15 million views, just like Penguin. That is not gonna work. Those plugins that give you all those, pointers, like the keywords and stuff like that. Actually, even someone, I don't remember, was it a comment or someone emailed me about that? I'm not sure. That if I had keywords in my videos, which some of them I do have keywords, like this one, because I just reused the same template. So there's like plenty of keywords like IC608, Subaru, all that kind of stuff. So I responded with a excerpt from the documentation that keywords have very little impact on how my video is classified and very little impact in general. The only reason the keywords are there is if your video has keywords that are often mispronounced or ambiguous, that kind of stuff. And that's from YouTube documentation, right? So who am I going to believe? A commenter on my video or viewer, or a documentation from YouTube? I'm a software engineer. I always go to documentation. If I'm learning new framework, programming language or whatever, I don't go to YouTube and watch tutorials. I don't go to Google search and search how do I learn this. No, I go to documentation. I want to read what the creator of this had to say about it, and how the creator or creators of this, whatever it is, library, framework, what have you, what they have to say, how they want to teach me how to use it. I want to read what was the rationale behind actually writing it, and I get all that information from the source, because there can be a lot of misinformation, meaning incorrect information, or misunderstood the opinions that are misguided, or someone slightly misunderstood something and published it. Then on top of that, someone else used that as knowledge to write their own tutorial and stuff, and that's how misinformation is in this profession is built. All right. Sometimes it's from the assumptions, just like, publish in the morning, not in the evening, or the on the opposite way, because that works for me. So that's an assumption, and if we turn it into a plugin that will tell you that, hey, don't publish yet, or short titles, hey, your title is too long, or that kind of stuff. That's how it's built. That's how the misinformation is built. So I always go to the source, the documentation provided by the company that created a feature or a library or framework, or a person, or a team, or a community. Alright, I bet that was way too much information, or a lot of information that you didn't ask for. But that's what Black Horse Repairs is all about. Sometimes you get a lot of information you did not ask for. But it's just the general knowledge. As you can see, I don't know anything that you wouldn't know about YouTube, and all my knowledge about YouTube comes from YouTube, comes from YouTube documentation, comes from YouTube guidelines and stuff. So I don't watch other channels that specialize in, or at least not anymore. Because yes, I did back in the day when I started on YouTube. I watched a few channels that kind of specialize in, giving you tools. What you should do what can you do to potentially be successful, right? And a lot of that advice is a completely valid advice, but so generic that it's not exactly useful. Well, actually, it is useful. It's there's definitely knowledge there, but all of that stuff. When I was watching those videos, all of that stuff I was pretty much already aware of. I didn't really learn much from them because they don't have the information either, like some secret information, right? Like some some cheat code, right? To how to make your videos popular and stuff. And actually, a lot of stuff that I learned about how to make videos, regardless whether I'm good at it or not, but I got it from the YouTube channel. Actually, not from YouTube channel, Captain Disillusion, but not from YouTube channel. He was on the, I think that was VidCon. His speech basically, talking about lighting, the lighting, pacing, sound, and stuff. And one of the first things that I wanted to address was the sound, right? And it's actually nothing you wouldn't know for your video to be watchable, right? Your viewer needs to be able to hear you, and for the viewer to be able to hear you, your microphone needs to be close to your mouth, right? If your microphone is on the other side of the room, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. The same with lighting, the same with my camera, constantly adjusting focus, the microscope camera, all that stuff. Yeah, I was watching my videos, and I saw that no, I don't like that. The same with pacing. Actually, I can't really do that just yet. Mainly because I don't script my videos. But I don't really have the talent in that department. But some annoying sounds that you can make, the way you speak, the way you pronounce words, all that I could hear that, watching my own videos. and improving on that. Basically, the idea is that every other video, every next video should be at least slightly better than your previous one. That is not necessarily the case in on my channel, unfortunately. Mainly because I would have to start investing to actually improve my quality. Or perhaps I should invest in vocal coach. I don't know if that's what they're called, but basically the improve public speaking and all that stuff. Could be, but a lot of that stuff you already know, a lot of that stuff you're already familiar with, and you don't necessarily need a channel or a mentor or a consultant to guide you through it. Especially the ones that have no idea what neural networks are and what recommendation engines are, and they wanna assist me how to improve my videos regarding watch time, but they refer to recommendation engine as algorithm. Well, sorry, you have to show me some kind of competency if you want me to pay you money for your knowledge. I need to have some confidence that you actually know what you're doing. And if you don't know the difference between algorithm and recommendation engine, you're probably not the guy. I'm sorry. I have to go by what I see. Maybe you're the most brilliant person that ever existed, but I don't see that. I'm not confident that you are. So, if you want to give me some advice regarding my channel, what to do to get more views, no, thank you. I don't need it. Thank you. I will not like I will figure it out myself, but I don't think you have answers either. Unless you want to give me a free advice, that's always appreciated. Definitely. Criticism, constructive or otherwise, I always take it. I always appreciate it. So definitely feel free. But if you have a company and you want me to buy a subscription of your service or one-time payments or anything like that, I'm just not interested. That's the bottom line. Alrighty guys, this is fixed. It's gonna be shipped tomorrow because today is Sunday. And no more misfires for our customer. Too bad she had to spend $1,200 plus my fee to get this fixed, but yeah, we already talked about that. Thank you guys very much for watching. I do appreciate you. Oh, that was a long one, an hour and 20 minutes. Let's see if we can cut it down a bit. I shall see you in the next one.